everybody, it's Michael Mathias, and I'm here to give you an update on the ecosystem and what's going to be happening in April. There's a lot that's going to go on. I want to keep this very high level, and I realize that there'll be a lot of questions, but please know that your questions are going to get answered as these events happen in April. So right now, I'm going to keep it very high level and just give you a heads up on what's on the way, what's coming. I'm going to go over the new blockchain. I'll do a staking update. I'll talk a bit about the new governance structure, very important. And then I'll also get into the high level of the upcoming developments. But we're only going to keep it at the high level on this. So let me dive right into this. The arrival of the new blockchain, in less than 2 weeks, our ecosystem will have a new blockchain. And starting on April 8th, you'll be able to create a wallet on this system. So this is something I want everybody to be aware of, that action on this can begin on April 8th. Let me talk a bit about the technology, and again, we'll keep it very high level. Everything in blockchain is about optimizing decentralization, security, and scalability. And what we really have needed is something that is more decentralized. And I'm here to tell you that the blockchain that we will now have access to is extremely optimized for these three factors. Something that we were missing was decentralization. Now we will have that. There's fast finality under the 7-second threshold, which is the important processing threshold. High throughput, over 1,000 transactions per second. It's inexpensive. This is very key because we don't have this in Ethereum. Blockchain transactions are under 1 cent each. Smarter contracts. These are contracts that are easier to write and more secure to execute. Energy efficiency. This blockchain is fully carbon neutral. And it all comes together in forms of, this is a simple and secure way to tokenize and transfer value as fungible tokens and as NFTs. This blockchain makes it possible for better ways to program smart contracts and decentralized apps or dApps that are really going to be the future of our ecosystem. So we can really, there's very excited about this technology platform, and I think the entire community is going to be thrilled come April 8th when this is revealed. Let me talk about GRN and GOV staking. The staking period ends on April 22nd. A process will be accessible on mvault.io to withdraw tokens to your new wallet address. Step-by-step instructions will be available on mvault as well as on the community Telegram channel. And what's very important is that everyone takes custody of their tokens. Direct custody of tokens by every account holder will ensure optimal participation in our Web3 future, which is what we're going to talk about more in this overview. Okay, let me talk a bit about the new governance structure that's going to be in place in the ecosystem. And let me set the stage for this by just, not that anyone needs reminding, but to acknowledge that this ecosystem has been in a kind of metamorphosis process over the last 2 years, and there's still some time. We're in the middle of that still. Having the new blockchain is the first step in really kind of turning that corner and bringing into existence the new structure. And it became very clear in the previous years that not having an effective governance system was a real problem. And this is there's many blockchains that are discovering that. And what I can tell everyone is that moving forward and upon having the new blockchain in place, a number of things can then start moving and taking shape. Now, we've already started some of this process with the formation of the two associations, the Swiss associations. Those are important to our new governance structure, but it's also very important for everyone to understand that there are DAOs that are the primary governing bodies of this new structure. So we have the Power DAO, which really is the primary governance body, and there's going to be a way to participate in the Power DAO through something that's called the Power DAO Compact. It's like a constitution, and you will bring governance tokens to the Power DAO Compact in order to engage and become a part of the Power DAO. This is a voting process and proposal process that's on-chain, and there's opportunities to receive GOV tokens for commitments and service to the governance process. Now, supporting the Power DAO is a steward organization that is a more centralized organization, whereas the Power DAO is very decentralized. The Power DAO Association is a Swiss association, and this is an association that's responsible for the support and marketing and education around the ecosystem, dealing with the ecosystem. The membership is open to individuals, whereas the Power DAO, it's accounts that are members that engage with the Power DAO Compact. In the Power DAO Association, it's individuals that are joining an association. And the voting and the proposals are off-chain, and they'll happen in the mVault system. Let's move to the second DAO. There will be a second DAO that will be established in our ecosystem. And this DAO will be called the Green DAO. And it'll be the governance body for the GRN protocol, which we'll get into later in this overview. The Green DAO Compact is the way that one would interact with their GRN tokens to be a part of the Green DAO. And the voting and proposals are on-chain, and there are opportunities to receive GRN tokens to for service to the governance process. Now, the GRN Association is the Swiss-based association that is the steward for the Green DAO. And this is an open membership association for individuals, and the association is responsible for support, marketing, and education related to GRN. And the voting and proposals for the GRN Association are off-chain, also in mVault. And this is a two DAO system that we need in the ecosystem in order to provide governance for the two large platforms that will form the foundation of our ecosystem moving forward. Let me now talk a bit about our Web3 future. And what this is the technology that is Web3 is opening up new possibilities. And just to give a sense of what those are, let me talk a bit about just some of the dynamics. So in the Web3, you're dealing with multiple tokens. That's a reality. There's not just a few. You're going to have tokens of all different varieties. And these tokens come with, there'll increasingly be, there'll be memberships of various types associated with those tokens. And these are just, whether it's a membership to a service or an application, there are different types of memberships that come with the tokens. And with those tokens, one has automated access to the utility of an application. And there's automated service that it comes to those holding a token. Also, by holding a token, the authority to make decisions is distributed amongst the token holders. So this is a much more cooperative dynamic that emerges. And there's a sharing of benefits among the token holders. And overall, in Web3, there's a greater amount of sustainability as a fundamental dynamic. All of us are currently facing a large problem in the form of big tech centralization. And this is what Web3 is a counterpoint to. Right now, we're entrenched in centralization. All of our services are being provided by centralized providers. What is emblematic of this are things like monopoly dynamics, where there's a driving out of competition to monopolize control of data. There's vendor lock-in, which is really trying to make it very difficult to ever switch to another service. There's telemetry, which is tracking our every move, every moment. Everything that a user is doing is being tracked, and that data is being held. There's data risks in general because valuable information, including identity and behaviors, location data, is being stored by these centralized providers. And in the last 2 years, what was a theoretical threat, they could do something like censorship, is now becoming very much an everyday reality. There's wide censorship and deplatforming, and that really is problematic. And then there's security risks inherent to centralized systems. Decentralized networks are far superior security-wise to centralized networks. So we're faced with this problem, and there is a solution. And it is made possible through Web3 technology. So the solution that we can bring to this problem is decentralization as a service. And so we're talking about decentralized network services on both the server side and the client side. So when I say server side, we're talking about direct network services, so the generation of raw network services that come from nodes. And on the client side, we're talking about collaborative network services, where we're converting the raw network services into utilities, applications. And there is now the ability to bring together an end-to-end decentralized infrastructure. It's happening predominantly on the client side right now, and there's really nothing happening or very little happening on the decentralized infrastructure side. But for something to be really compelling, it needs to happen on both. And with Web3 technology, there's now the capabilities, there's the coordination, and there's the incentives. So these are possible. They're not here yet, but the possibility exists now for these three elements, capabilities, coordination, and incentives, to come together. And that's the big possibility that's in front of us right now. Before getting into the solution, let's talk a bit about the context of what's happening, what I would call Web3 fundamentals. At the core of this, the economy is changing from a corporate economy that was dominated by centralized organizations to a network economy that's going to be very decentralized. The structure is going to be networks of networks operating within networks. And the dynamics are going to be inherently more cooperative, whereas the corporate economy was much more competitive in its dynamics. And the entity, the prime entity of the new emerging economy, will be decentralized autonomous organizations, DAOs, versus in our current economy is dominated by companies and corporations. So this DAO is really going to be the primary vehicle of the new economy. And it really is a network. I think that the organization word is a holdover because that's really what's understood and what the previous paradigm is. But truly, these are networks. It's a decentralized, autonomous optimization network, meaning that it brings optimizations through the technology. So we're talking about ways of distributing authority and ways of automating things. These are optimizations that come through this DAO network. So the term has been established of DAO. It's gaining in momentum, but it really, I wanted it recognized among our community that this is a type of network. And essentially, there's a new format of organization that's possible using networks. There's been, in a traditional economy has had the more cooperative dynamics were represented by something called a cooperative. And many of you, I'm sure, are aware of cooperatives. They're quite popular, and they say that over 1 million people are a member of at least one cooperative. So this traditional form of cooperative has a long history, and they've been very effective, but they've had limitations, and those limitations are now being augmented and resolved really through the emergence of a new type of cooperative, and that is a cooperative network. And here on the chart you can see that there's a lot of similarities between the traditional cooperative and this cooperative network that's emerging. They're both autonomous and governed by their members, and they share access to benefits. So they're similar in that respect. But then you'll see that the differences start to emerge. And the bottom line is that cooperative networks add capabilities, and that's in these automations, they expand range, and that's where the previous cooperatives were very physical and very local, and they really only worked in localized formats. Now with the cooperative network, you have the possibility for non-local, meaning fully distributed anywhere in the world, and that's very virtual. So decentralized, virtual, non-local capabilities with this cooperative model yield a lot of increased efficiencies, and that's the bottom line point here is that this cooperative network model has inherent efficiencies, and this is what we as an ecosystem are seeking to take full advantage of. We want to create solutions that harness these increased efficiencies. So let's talk briefly about the Web3 capabilities. What is available now that makes this new format possible? Well, automation is a very big factor. So we're quickly getting to the point now where smart contracts can talk to other smart contracts, and DAOs can interact directly with other DAOs. There's a lot of composability, so that's modular design of components throughout the tech stack, throughout the different aspects of the technology platform. There's programmability. You're using smart contracts, tokens, wallets, applications, DAOs, and platforms, and all of those can be programmed. The high level of cooperation, and you see that with, or one of the things that opens the way for that is open source software. But there's increasing amounts of interoperability and the bridging between blockchains, for instance. Privacy is a big issue and is really, there's a lot of solutions that open up to preserve privacy through encrypted technology. And that encryption can cover inputs, outputs, and the state of smart contracts. That isn't being used a lot yet, but that will be increasingly used more. And then there's security. And with Web3, you can have token-based access to service. You can have end-to-end encryption. And you have cryptographic controls over all of these aspects. So what's on the horizon that will be using this new structure and this Web3 technology? Well, there are two platforms, and this goes back to the solution where there's server-side decentralization in a platform and client-side decentralization. On the server side, it will be a network services cooperative. So this will be a meta network for independent nodes to deliver network services. And the range of services will be validation services for blockchains, governance services for DAOs, privacy, processing, storage, hosting, streaming. Virtually any service that can be delivered through a server will be incorporated into this super network of networks. And it'll have a cooperative structure to it in which the access to the services and the rates of the services will be modulated based on the GOV stake of that account. So the more GOV the account has, the more access to more services it has, and the rates for those services will be lower the more GOV that is staked. Also, those services will consume power tokens. So these are the tokens that have been accumulating in the staking accounts during the past year. On the client side, the platform is a teamwork services cooperative. So this is a meta network for decentralized communities and distributed teams. These are more work-based communities, meaning they're coming together for the purpose of creating value and utility. So this cooperative is providing services to these teams to help them build that value and utility. So the teamwork services include chat, forums, conferencing, media repositories, project management, design, development, support, and marketing, as well as rewards and admin function for the community itself. There's a base level of services that's provided, and then the rates and access to features are modulated based on the GRN stake. So this cooperative requires GRN to be staked in order for that community, which all the communities would be DAOs, for their members to have access to their portal. They need to have a certain amount of GRN. And the more GRN that they add to their stake, the more features and benefits that they will receive. So this is the model that will be used on both of these platforms, and both will consume power tokens for the service themselves. So, and we're talking microtransactions that will be occurring, and the way that is facilitated is through the new blockchain. Impossible to do with a blockchain like Ethereum. There are two utilities that will offer additional decentralization to these platforms. And the first is offering decentralized command. This is Web3 account services that are programmable accounts. These are smart contract wallets that can be programmed very easily. And the services amount to a smart contract-based management utility for signatures, encryption, and these DApps. And it serves as a hub for managing memberships, authorizations, privacy, and security. Now, on the incentive side, there's decentralized incentives have been something that this entire ecosystem was built on. And as we move more into the decentralized economy that's ahead of us, Web3 rewards are going to be a bigger and bigger part of this. And I believe that our ecosystem can lead the way in providing this kind of Web3 reward utility that will be used by all kinds of different networks. These are programmable multi-tiered rewards that are blockchain-based and modulated, in an automated manner by account metrics. And parameters for those metrics can be responsibilities, influence, performance, stake. All of these are elements that can be automated. The modulation of benefits can be automated based on the metrics from these parameters. And this whole utility will be built on microtransactions that, again, are only possible with that kind of low-cost blockchain transaction. Batch processing, which is another facet of our new blockchain, stacking of smart contracts, and secure automated token faucets. These factors are essentially going to be assembled into a utility that will be of prime use by the two platforms, but also will be useful to the communities and the teams, working to build applications in that teamwork services cooperative. So these utilities accentuate the solutions from the two platforms. So that's a top line look at what's coming, but the bottom line is that a new era is coming. It's an era built on independence, cooperation, and it's full of opportunity. There are new business models, there's new ways of organizing resources, and there's new ways of working and living. And so, we're going to be offering two ways to participate in the Web3 economy. One is run a node. Generate digital rewards on a daily basis, operating a node or a cluster of nodes as part of the Network Services Cooperative. Another way to participate, build utility. Collaborate with teammates to build decentralized applications and receive portions of the ongoing benefits they generate. Essentially, with this new decentralized infrastructure, every application, every website, every service needs to be reinvented in its decentralized format. So there's literally an incredible opportunity to reinvent everything that's out there already, a social network, a ride-sharing service. All of those can be built on decentralized infrastructure and will be longer-term opportunities than centralized ventures. So the future of collaboration is mutualized network effects, meaning that as these new types of networks take effect and grow, there needs to be systematic distribution of benefits. And that's what we're proposing here. That's the opportunity that we're pursuing in this ecosystem. And the fact is that Web3 brings a level of capabilities that I would call optimization capabilities. That's all the automation. It brings coordination in a very distributed way, and it brings incentives that can be very systematic. And it's those three elements together that represent a 10x improvement. And anytime that an established market is disrupted, it's always said that to do that, the new product or service needs to be 10 times better. And we have a situation where on the scale of an economy, we have a 10 times better solution in terms of decentralization, and the Web3 and all that it provides is truly 10 times better than the centralized economy. So this is a moment that will bring tremendous disruption of existing business models. But therein lies the opportunity, and this community is extremely well positioned for what will be a revolution, an economic revolution. So we find ourselves at the moment we've been waiting for. And this is the moment where we can leverage our strengths. The community has tremendous strengths. There's tens of thousands of members of this community. They're in scores of countries around the world. All of our members are crypto knowledgeable. The majority of them are very experienced in decentralized marketing. So some of the early format of decentralization came in the form of decentralized marketing. This is a very experienced community in that. Everyone in this community at this point has proven they are long-term committed. These are not short-term people that make up this community. And every member of this community is holding a stake of GRN and GOV And we're talking very substantial numbers. There's over 3 billion units of these currently being held by this community. So we have a new era of empowerment that is now possible. And so now is the time for all of us to come together and take action in unison to make the most of the opportunity that's in front of us. And I'll just end, by just summarizing. We've got a couple big dates coming up. You've got April 8th, where you're going to be able to create your new wallet on the new system, and that'll start the new governance structure to be implemented. And then on April 22nd, the staking period ends, and there will be systematic instructions that will be available for everyone to take you through that process. Along the way in April, there'll be other announcements. There'll be announcements about the Network Services Cooperative, the Teamwork Services Cooperative, the Web3 account services, and the Web3 reward utilities. All of this will be announced on Telegram. So I encourage everyone to make the most of this moment. Really understand as much as possible about what's happening. We've been on a road. It has been a long journey. And this past 2 years have been a very difficult transition, but we are coming out of that transition. And during the course of the rest of this year, there's going to be more and more things that are going to be coming to fruition. So you'll see that starting in early April, and that'll start carrying through the entire rest of the year, to the point where at the end of this year, we will be through the transition and operating at a whole new level. So on that note, just please be mindful of the announcements that are coming and be ready to take action. Thanks.